you are an architect and you are a visual artist. So what would be that one project where you sort of find the balance between these two things?
That's actually a very interesting question. And
hello everybody, welcome to Design Baithak. It's a show that would help you answer that one question that you would be frequently asked. कि आपका बेटा करता क्या है? My name is Rohit. I'm your inside man, here to get you inside information about the world of design. And to do so, we have a very special guest. Her name is Anusha Dhawan. She is an architect as well as a visual artist. She graduated from MSU Baroda. And we are going to know a lot about her throughout the course of this show. So, Anusha, welcome to the show. Before starting this whole show, I would like to ask you, how would you introduce yourself? Because when somebody introduces me, they kind of leave certain points which I would like to answer myself.
oh well, thank you for sort of inviting me to today's show. I think your introduction pretty much sums up what I do or what people would know me as. But there's something that I've started doing very recently, and when I'm asked that what is it that I do, and because that introduction is like you're an architect, you're teaching design, you're doing like various things on the side, and I cannot always go like I'm this comma that, etc., etc. So I think my definition is that I'm a drawer, and and not the ones that you have in our homes and the ones we pull. But I'm a drawer, and I'm someone who's full time into drawing. And that includes a lot of drawing. That includes drawing from various perspectives. That includes drawing from different professions, as we know drawing as. But I think that is what I would introduce myself as.
The most interesting thing about this is the word drawer. Because मेरे life में, I wouldn't say life, like school life में, there is this very interesting moment जब मुझे drawer बोलते थे लोग. So I was like new to the school, and उस वक्त क्या होता है कि like हम दोस्त लोग बैठे होते हैं, and I had a friend. Obviously he became my best friend later. We used to sit together, and जब कोई ऐसे नई faculty आते थे, because like उस वक्त faculty change हो रहे थे, और we were getting new faculties because we got promoted or something. So introduction के बाद they used to ask you आपका hobby वगैरह क्या है, just to like know you. So I used to say कि मैं I like to draw, and yeah, that because that's what we say when you sort of like draw. उस time to designer or artist वगैरह terms इतना वो नहीं था. Yeah. So वहाँ से मेरा दोस्त मेरे को चिढ़ाता था कि मैम ये drawer है. I feel so empowered right now because you use the term drawer. So to know you better, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
What was that one spark of I would say creativity or spark of whatever it is that led you to choose architecture in the first place?
Well, if we are trying to talk about one incident, I don't think there was like a spark sort of an incident ever for me.
Okay.
Because though I was always someone who was more involved in co-curricular activities in school while I was at school, drawing wasn't something that I was doing a lot. And so usually I see a lot of students also coming in, and they're like, I want to get into design because I'm good at drawing or I'm good at sketching.
Yeah, that's exactly how.
If I go by that logic, I should not be here probably. So I was never drawing so much in school. I did develop drawing as a practice later in life, but I was always into co-curricular activities. I was always the one trying to lead my friends into participating into dance competitions, into doing things on the stage, etc. I was always doing that. And what sort of moved me into architecture, or brought me or introduced me to design and architecture, would be it's a very simple reason that my brother was actually doing architecture, and I wanted to go into something creative, and that is how you sort of put it when you're at that age. But my other option was mathematics honors, and I decided to not do that, and that elimination was pretty much one of the reasons why I sort of chose to do this. So I think it started from there. It started from having someone in the family who was pursuing architecture, but also the place I come from, we were not really introduced to design so much. Like I had no understanding of what design schools are in India.
Okay.
And by the time I got that understanding, I was sort of in the phase where one is expected to quickly move into college from their post their class 12th education, post their board exams, and that is what happened with me. So I moved into architecture, and that is what I did.
So at this point, what normally happens is I see, for example, in my case, जब like मैंने mom dad को बोला कि mom like मेरे को design करना है, and they were like हाँ मतलब क्या like कमाओगे कैसे? I would like to know what was your parents' reaction, because here there is already a person in your family who's already, I think, practicing architecture or studying architecture. So what was the difference in like the reaction of your parents in this case?
I think the kind of kid that I was to them and to my teachers in school, nobody really cared a lot as what is it that I'm actually choosing. They would be more concerned about where am I going, but not so much concerned about whether I will be able to do well in a certain field or not.
Okay.
So I think in that case, they were pretty much sure as to whether you do this or that, you'll do something. And like I was like scoring grades and getting marks, being the school president, etc., etc. And then all of that sort of nobody actually questioned it when I was making that decision.
Okay.
So I think they would have expected me to perform well anywhere I go.
Wow, that is so contrary to me, because I was like I mean, getting low grades and everything, but also like that was intentional somewhere.
Also, it's not that like it is contrary to me as well, because when I actually went into college, people would have expected me to sort of get gold medals, top the class, etc. But none of that happened. Okay. So my college journey was nowhere close to my school journey in terms of if you look at evaluation or grades. And I don't think it also stopped mattering to me. So I think that is what also happened. So it's equally there as well.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's try and understand how did you feel after like joining the architecture school? I'm asking this because while I was joining this design school, I had a certain notion about everything, but when I literally entered the school, and then there was this certain personalities,
right?
And I was like, कौन ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं? So what was your reaction when you entered design school, architecture school?
Okay, when I entered college, like I actually do not. I remember the day I entered college, but I'm talking in a more broader sense, not about that particular day. When I came into an architecture college, I felt that life is very different. Life is very different from what I'd imagined or known as before. And all of it was very new. And I think what helped me a lot, or where I actually coped very well with that newness, was I was very open to it. I was very open to, let's say I moved to Gujarat from Sonipat, Delhi, and I was very open to learning a new language. I was very open to making friends who do not share the same language or do not come from a similar background or come from a very different family. So I think all of that and being open to that entire idea is something that helped me a lot. And even though that there was a lot of newness, I liked that newness. So that entropy sort of helped me more, rather than bringing me down or making me too conscious about where am I now. So I think I was very open to, let's see, dekh lenge jo hoga wala sort of mood.
That's really awesome. So like once you entered this architecture college, what was when I entered design, there was a drastic change in like my routine itself. So I was a guy, like, because in my house there was this one restriction ki after 11 o'clock you're not supposed to be up. Like that was still like
you're not supposed to be up.
Yeah. And after I entered design school, there were people used to like work late at night, like सुबह 3 बजे तक काम कर रहे हैं. And that was like super weird to me, because I was like, wow, you could like be up after 11 o'clock. So what were those sort of changes that you observed?
So did you actually stay up after 11?
No, I did not.
No, you did not. Because you were home.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, because I was not really living with my family anymore, like I had moved to a different city for my education.
Yeah.
I think for me that change actually came in a very drastic sense, because it was not just about staying up till late. It was about being able to work as a community. And
Yes,
I remember incidents where you are at a certain person's place, and it's this particular place where a lot of your batchmates, a lot of your seniors would stay, and there would be like 30 or 40 of us working in the same place.
Wow.
And this is a very festival sort of a scenario where we would have college fest and one would work before that. So I think it was not just about staying up till late, and people also make the choice of staying up till late even when they don't have work. So I think it's a part of the culture in that sense. But I think it brought in a lot of learnings for us as well. It was also the place where one would figure out things that you cannot figure out in a classroom.
Yes.
So I think that made it more bearable, and in fact not just bearable, that made it interesting, that made that way of living very likable for all of us.
एक और ये चीज है ना कि when you are sort of like working in a community ऐसे, so you get to know people on a very, I don't know, on a very personal level, because ये होता है ना कि जैसे you're working for like say 2-3 hours ऐसे, and then you take a break, and then at that time it's like late at night, and फिर वो conversations चली जाती हैं वहाँ तक, and then you get to know कि वो thinking क्या है उस इंसान का. So all of this scenario, how did it impact you as a person, or I would say how did it help you as a person?
I think it's still about the learning aspect of it. So even though I was choosing to not be in classrooms, I was learning even while I was sort of chatting with seniors. We were talking rubbish at times, but also a lot of people can inspire you in moments where you did not think, or where you were not actually ready to be inspired. Like one fine night you're just working on an assignment and you decide to hang out with a certain person because they're the only person awake. But the conversations that you have, like you said, the conversations that you have might just make a difference to your journey.
Yes.
And I remember that there was this point which sort of came from one of these conversations, and probably it must have been something that was told in the classroom as well. But when it was told in that very moment, and it's probably about that repetition as well. When it was told in that very moment, it struck the right chord in a way. So I remember learning this idea of, and it seems like a very trivial idea at times now.
Yeah.
But learning this idea of how observation is one of the very central things to whatever we are trying to do.
Yeah.
Like once one is very aware of observations that they're making, not just observing, but observations that you're making, and being able to take note of these observations in any form possible. And I think that was one of the things that came for me from one of these interactions. And there would be like 100 such things. So I think that is what strikes my head right now. But they were really, it was really a good time, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, so I think now it's time that we should focus on the word visual artist. So what is a visual artist?
Okay.
According to you.
Yeah. So I think that question needs breakdown.
Yes,
to get answered in a way. And this is something I've been thinking for a while, and it's probably the compulsiveness of being a certain practitioner, and then everybody around keeps asking you what that practice actually means. So let's say when you tell people you're an artist, everybody would look for definitions of who is an artist. And people like you, or in a conversation like this, or even in very informal conversations, everybody is looking for a definition of things. And though it bugs me a lot at times, and sometimes I feel like that there's no need for definitions in certain cases, but even then you sort of think, because you have this tendency to find answers, I think that sort of moves me into to continuously keep thinking about what is an artist in that matter, and not just look for answers, but actually probably look for answers within, or find or carve answers that actually make a lot of sense to you. So I think in that sense, something that I realized very recently, and it must be like some random moment, like driving on the road or doing one of those things, that I realized that being an artist is very close to being a facilitator.
Okay.
Right? So I realized that as a facilitator, as a mentor, as a teacher, and like sort of refraining to use the word teacher and using a word like facilitator, one is just creating the right conditions, the right sort of conditions for the other person to be able to reach from, let's say, point A to B, or the other person to be able to learn something. And in that sense, I felt that being an artist is also like being that facilitator, making people see things that they do not usually see, or making them question things that they're probably not questioning right now, or making them realize things that probably matter to all of us. And it's not that compulsive in its sense that, if I'm talking about this, all of you need to hear me out. It's about being that facilitator in that moment. And maybe one fine day someone looks at your work and that work is able to facilitate something for them. That work is able to facilitate something in their journey. That work is able to facilitate a thought in their mind. So I think that is where it comes from. I think the visual aspect of it for me has been something that comes more out of the kind of mediums that I work with. And it's more to be on the same page with the community, rather than being rather than saying that a visual artist does only a specific kind of work. It is how I would club myself with certain members of the community because they are also visual artists, or they're not visual artists. I think it's more about that bracketing for me. But even through my work, I've been trying to sort of move to different mediums, move to very spatial sort of work. So I think that the visual aspect is just that, and the artist aspect is what I look at as a facilitator as of now.
Okay. So this whole thing about someone calling themselves that one thing, it's very beautiful because for example, I like to call myself a visual content designer. I don't know, like at this point I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm actually doing a lot. I'm doing multiple things to understand my interests. So this whole thing, the whole definition is very interpretive. I think people can interpret this definition. सबके लिए अलग होगा ये definition. I really like the way you sort of define visual artists. And okay, so that gets me to this point. You are an architect and you are a visual artist. So what would be that one project where you sort of find the balance between these two things?
That's actually a very interesting question, and not something I've thought about so much. Because probably for me that overlap always exists, but in a very in the sense of someone actually observing a project or being at the observer's end. I feel that there's this one project where I actually assisted an artist. It was an interactive installation in Kolkata, and it was a Durga Puja pandal that he was working on, and I was primarily an assist there. But I think that project sums up, or is at the brink of the two for me, where I was equally able to connect things that come to me as a person working with spatial designs, and as a person trying to work with visual art. So I think that project would be something where that intersection sort of happens for me.
Can we know a little bit details about the project? Like how did it all happen?
And like sort of as I mentioned, I was actually someone assisting, and I was pretty. I'm still young. Like I was still like I was young and also novice then. But so there's this artist called his name is Asim Waqif, and he is also an architect turned artist, and he does a lot of interactive installations. And I sort of found him through probably one of the online platforms. I sort of wrote to him that I would like to assist him on this project, and it was about 3 months of sort of working in his studio in Delhi, and working on certain prototypes. There was another architect that was working with us, and we were sort of figuring out what is it that one would like to do in that pandal. And there was a lot of work that we were doing with bamboo there, and also a lot of work with that involved the interactive bit of this certain installation.
Yeah.
And how it was about connecting the entire idea of the space with music, and various different experiences for people who would sort of traverse through this pandal. I majorly worked on a lot of mock-ups with him while in his studio and with the other architect. But I also had the opportunity, I was sort of given the opportunity to sort of help him when we were there in Kolkata as well, for let's say a 15-day period where I was trying to figure out my way. I was making mistakes, I was not making mistakes, and I think the best experience, the best part about this specific experience was that it was an open arena to make any mistakes. And
that's wonderful, man.
Or you were on your own, even though you were, let's say, a very junior person in that sense. One was sort of allowed to experiment, to bring on ideas, and I think that made it very interesting and a beautiful learning experience for me.
Yeah, I feel that the same experience is what I experienced as like a student in like a college. Also, throughout this whole project, what was that one memory that would you would like to cherish? That one memory.
I think that there's just a lot of them, and
I'm pretty sure of that.
I cannot zero down to like one specific memory, but no, I actually cannot. There's no possibility that I can think of only one incident from there.
Yeah, that's fair. It was a project that actually brought the balance between the two fields. So I don't think having one memory, it's like a fair deal.
But I think my the most fun moments for me was actually, waking up every day. And before one would actually go to the site where we were working, I would go to this particular shop right opposite, go for a chai, have this chai on my own. And then by the end of it, all the people working on the pandal, all the craftsperson, they sort of knew me personally. So I think that particular bit of that entire interaction, of that entire project was something that I cherish a lot. So maybe it's not a moment, but then maybe that's a part that I would cherish a lot.
Yes, I think it's pretty. I don't know whether to call it evident or it's pretty interesting, because I did like an internship with one of these firms. And I got really really friendly with the craftsmen over there, because they would share me these small details about these techniques that they are doing and why they are doing and why it is the way it is. That's like a really beautiful part of the whole journey. That
I agree. Yeah.
Yes. So how did the design village come to the picture?
So after sort of moving, after I was done with my graduation, and I did a few stints here and there. I was working on a few projects, helping friends with their projects, and basically doing a lot of freelancing work. I came for this one particular course to the Design Village, where I was actually assisting another faculty who was taking a course. And while I was doing that, I sort of the vibe and the entire atmosphere sort of connected to me a lot. And the thing is, when I got to know about the Design Village and when I sort of interacted with the people here, it was at the same time that I was very sure that I wanted to work at the brink of art, culture and design, and not just be an architect, and not just perform or let's say not just practice as an architect in that case. And I think that entire thought or that entire phase in my life sort of matched very well with the space that TDV was able to give me, the environment and the space that TDV was able to give me in terms of being able to experiment with all these things at the same time, while I was also trying to work a lot with visual communication, and those were the sort of courses that I started a lot with. So I think that that alignment sort of brought it in for me, and I'm here, so that's that.
Also, there's one question that I would love to ask. You have been closely sort of working as well as learning from an architectural college, and then you are now a facilitator at a design institute. What are the differences or the similarities over there? Because I see मेरे अंदर से वो feeling है कि architecture वाले ना बहुत serious होते हैं वो. So because I don't know, what's that?
Well, I don't think I know, or if there's a very specific contrast as to the seriousness of both the environments or the people sort of being in academics, in architecture or in design. But I don't see such stark differences as such in terms of the environment. In terms of the curriculums, yes. In terms of the pedagogies that are followed in design schools in India, and in terms of the sort of architecture schools that I was exposed to, there would be a lot of difference there, but not in the environment so much. And it's very much, I would call all of that, like, for me, all of that falls into the same bag. So there's no much difference there.
Okay, so in terms of your whole, if I say the journey of the creative journey, we see that you have been with an architecture school, and so why is it that you did not continue the practice of architecture?
I don't think I made a very specific decision to not do architectural projects at all. But I did make the choice of being very conscious about what is it that I'm going to build, or what is it that I practice as a person who's a built environment professional, let's say.
Okay. Yeah.
And because of that very idea and the entire scenario of like architecture would come in where someone needs a built service, where someone needs architectural service.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to have that space to make a choice of not building. And that entire thing did not seem very possible in the beginning.
Okay.
But I'm sort of still figuring out ways to, to be able to make that choice. Or, to be able to say that this particular problem does not need an architectural solution.
Okay.
Or, could be done through an app, or could be done through a basic campaign, let's say.
Okay. Yeah.
And this also comes out of my thesis project for me, where I was trying to work on a training and upskilling center for construction workers.
Okay.
And if at that moment I had the choice of not building, I would have chosen to not build probably at all. Okay. And that very premise sort of pushed it further for me. There's no I don't look down upon the idea of making buildings as such. Okay. And that is also why landscape or urban design sort of attracts me even more than architecture in that sense.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much interested in exploring and being very sure about the sort of projects that I take, and not just be involved in the practice of building because that is what I'm professionally expected to do. Okay. So I think that is where it comes from for me. Yeah.
I have a question. So you said you use three terms: architecture, then landscapes, and like urban design, I guess. Yeah. What are the differences between these three?
Architecture primarily, and this definition is coming largely from the way these three branches are segregated in the Indian education system, or in the Indian system of architecture and built schools that are centered around planning and built environment. So architecture would focus more on built structures, on built environment, to which urban design looks at things from a very macro scale. Not that architecture does not do that, but an urban designer is specifically looking at cities from a vantage that probably an architect is not always looking at.
Okay.
And in the same sense, a landscape architect is someone who's, and this is how our faculty would define it, that landscape is at the juncture of nature and culture.
Okay.
And that is also again why it interests me so much.
Yeah,
so
I can understand. Yeah.
Being something that is trying to look at the idea of non-building, or the idea of what is open space making look like, and being at the juncture of nature and culture is, I think, what landscape would look at. But they're pretty much connected fields, and one cannot really isolate one from the other. But and in fact, your architecture education sort of takes you through them. But there are people who would specialize in these as well.
Okay, so right now we're going to do this. Let's call it a situational round because I'm going to put Anusha through a situation, and so that we could like understand what sort of like decisions she takes. So, Anusha, for example, I as a person, I love to draw, and
Okay.
like I love to draw anything and everything. I like to draw sceneries or like products or there's like no such specifics. So what should be my career path according like keeping in mind the finances as well as keeping in mind my passion. So what should be like the ultimate career path if that I
Okay.
don't know.
So, uh, I don't know if and I'm just sharing what I think about this.
Yeah.
To be able to decide what career path one should actually go
Yes.
into, I don't think this much information is enough. You know,
Okay.
and this also means that, and this is a very personal point of view of mine,
Yeah.
that anyone who draws well could actually make use of that particular skill in any field,
Yeah.
right? And this similarly goes for people who cannot draw well. Like, I wouldn't
Okay.
consider drawing or certain skills as a mandate for choosing design or choosing architecture as a career path for them. So I think for me, if you draw well, matlab, I don't see where drawing as a skill
Yeah.
and being able to choose a career path on the basis of that actually aligns.
Okay.
But
So
let's
it,
say
it has to do with like interests as well, I guess.
yes, it
Yeah.
definitely has a lot to do with interest. And I think more than actually choosing a career based on a skill that a person has, one actually, and that is not a lot what happens in our cities, and it is something that has started to happen with time now, that we have a very superficial understanding of what happens in any field, what happens in any profession.
Yeah.
And I think the best way is to actually engage with people who are a part of that particular space or system.
Yes.
And then maybe make your own sense out of it.
Okay.
So, and also look, one should try to look at journeys that come from diverse places, journeys that come from places that do not match in the kind of education that people are exposed to, or in the kind of families that people come from, and also what people are doing now with whatever education they went through. So I think once anyone has that information,
Okay.
anybody is sort of good to decide what career path do they want to
I
go
think it's
into.
also like a introspection part of it where you sort of try and understand
Yes,
what
very
you
much.
like.
But I'm very sure about the skill aspect. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say one needs the skill before actually getting
Yes,
into a
yes.
particular discipline, for that matter.
So now we are going to play a small game with Anusha so that we sort of get to know her better. The rules of the game are very simple. I'll give you one word and you have to tell me what's the first word that comes to your mind after listening to the word.
Okay.
ठीक है? So tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, I am.
You're
Okay.
ready, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first word is line.
Dot.
Wow. Color.
Play.
Okay. Trust.
Circle.
Material.
Nature.
Structure.
Sorry, this one's a sad one. I got mechanics in my head for some reason.
No, that's alright. Fluid.
What?
Fluid.
Fluid. Ghosts.
Wow. Domain.
Domain.
Yeah.
Task box. I'm
Oh,
so sorry.
yeah. Experience.
Experience. Spaces.
Okay. Satisfaction.
Drawing.
Okay. Medium.
Message.
Okay. No, that's like super wonderful, man.
I actually gave you all my first words. I should
Yeah,
have given
yeah.
you the second one, probably.
No, I think the first word like makes it a little interesting.
Okay,
It
perfect.
opens the door
Yeah.
of thought. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching it till the end. I would like you to subscribe to this channel. I would like you to leave a like as well as comment down below what was your favorite moment for this whole video and what intrigued you a lot about Anusha. If you want to know more about Anusha, her social media as well as her work has been linked down in the descriptions below. Please make sure to go check that out as well. Check our college. It's called the Design Village. And yeah, I guess that's it. See you next time.